didn't mean to stare, but she moved like someone who'd forgotten how to rush. Every motion measured, careful, as if time owed her patience. The afternoon light slid through the stairwell window, catching the faint gold in her hair. She was struggling with a stack of boxes, one hand gripping the railing, the other balancing what looked like half her life. "Here, I've got it," I said before I could stop myself. She turned, a small pause, then smiled, like she'd been caught doing something she shouldn't. "You don't have to." "Yeah, but I want to." Came out too quick, too honest. I took the top 2 boxes from her before she could argue. They were heavier than they looked. Her perfume, faint, clean, something floral and warm, drifted up as I leaned in. She stepped aside to let me pass, her shoulder brushing mine. Not an accident. Or maybe it was. Couldn't tell. Her name was Elena. Apartment 4B. I'd seen her once or twice in the hallway. Quiet hellos, that kind of distance people keep when they've lived long enough to prefer silence over small talk. But up close, she wasn't distant. She was present. Her voice followed me up the stairs. "You don't look like you've carried much furniture before." I laughed. "Guess I don't look very useful." She smiled again. That soft, amused kind that lands somewhere between teasing and invitation. "You're useful enough today." Her door was already open. The apartment smelled like dust and lemon cleaner. A few half-unpacked boxes, bare walls, sunlight catching motes in the air. She set her purse down on the counter, brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear, and turned toward me like she suddenly remembered we were strangers. "You can just put those here," she said, nodding to the floor. Her voice was calm, but her fingers fidgeted at her wrist, where a watched hand still showed. I crouched, setting the boxes down carefully. My arm brushed her leg by mistake, and she froze for half a second. Then she exhaled, stepped back, and looked away. Something in the air changed, heavier. Still, I didn't move. "You live downstairs, right?" she asked. "Yeah. 2A. "I thought so. I hear music sometimes." "Too loud." "No," her lips lifted barely. "Just young." That word stuck. Young. I should have said something, joked, changed the subject, but she was watching me with that unreadable calm. I could feel the space between us shrinking, even though neither of us moved. "Thank you," she said finally, "for helping." "It's nothing." "It's not nothing." She tilted her head. "People don't usually stop anymore." I shrugged, unsure what to do with my hands. "Guess I'm not most people." The silence that followed wasn't awkward, not exactly. Just aware. The kind that makes you notice every sound. The hum of the refrigerator, the soft scrape of her bare foot against the tile. Then the sound of the door downstairs, the building's front door, slamming shut. She turned her head, startled. I heard a lock click from the hallway. "Elena?" I asked. Her brows furrowed. "Did you?" I shook my head. She tried the knob. It didn't budge. The latch had slipped. We were locked in. Her eyes met mine. Close now, closer than they'd been all afternoon. And for the first time, she didn't look away. The air between us held still, waiting for something neither of us was ready to name. The sound of the lock clicking still hung between us. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she laughed softly, that thin, nervous kind of laugh people use to keep the air from thickening too much. "Guess we're stuck," she said, checking the knob again. "This building's ancient. Doors swell in summer." "Yeah," I murmured, though it was October and the hallway felt cool. She bent to look closer at the latch, her hair falling forward. I caught myself watching, the line of her neck, the faint freckle near her collarbone, and looked away fast. Too late. "You can sit," she said without turning around. "I'll call maintenance." I sat on the edge of a half-unpacked couch, pretending not to notice how her dress shifted when she knelt near the door. Her phone pressed to her ear, her voice dropping softer, polite, patient. Whoever she called didn't pick up. "No answer," she sighed. "It'll open eventually." She joined me on the couch, leaving just enough space that our knees didn't touch. Barely. The silence returned, thicker this time, but not uncomfortable. "You said you're in school?" she asked. Yeah, community college. Architecture. That explains the boxes. She smiled. Always fixing things. I shrugged. Trying to. She looked at her hands. I used to paint. Before. She stopped, breathed out through her nose. Before my divorce. I lost the habit. It's hard to start again. I nodded, unsure what to say. Her voice wasn't sad exactly. More like she was describing a place she'd once lived and couldn't go back to. How long ago? I asked. 5 years. She turned her head toward the window. You? Me? I laughed quietly. Haven't even done the dating part right yet. That made her look at me. Really look. Her eyes softened, then sharpened, as if realizing she shouldn't have. You'll learn, she said. Just try not to hurry through it. I'm not the one rushing, I said before I thought. Her lips parted slightly, surprise, maybe something else. She stood, brushing invisible dust from her hands, and crossed to the kitchen counter. Coffee? Sure. The kettle hissed between us. I watched the curve of her wrist as she poured water, the steam rising against her cheek. When she handed me the cup, her fingers brushed mine. Not by mistake this time. Hot, she murmured. I'll manage. We both held on a second too long. Then she let go, retreating half a step, pretending to search for sugar she didn't have. You remind me of someone, she said finally. Good thing or bad? Complicated. I smiled. That seems to be the theme. Her laugh was soft, but there was something in it, like she was trying to unlearn the habit of wanting. The clock ticked. Outside, footsteps passed in the hall, but no one stopped at her door. She turned back toward me, mug in hand, eyes quiet and steady. You really shouldn't be here. I know, but neither of us moved. The steam between us faded, leaving only warmth, hers, mine, and the space that refused to cool. The maintenance guy still hadn't called back. The air in her apartment felt heavier, thicker somehow, like even the walls knew something was happening that shouldn't. Elena had stopped pretending to unpack. The kettle was empty, the cups cold. She stood by the window, one hand resting on the frame, eyes tracing the gray sky beyond the glass. You should go before someone wonders where you are, she said quietly. I would, I said, if the door would let me. That pulled a small laugh from her, brief, unguarded. Then her phone buzzed on the counter. A message. She glanced at it, and her face changed. Not angry, not sad, just closed. Everything okay? I asked. Just my sister. She worries. She didn't pick up the phone again. The screen dimmed between us. Silence crept back in, filled only by the faint hum of the fridge and the soft sound of her breathing. She turned around slowly, leaning her shoulder against the wall. You're too kind, she said. Too curious. That's dangerous. For you. For both of us. I almost said I don't care, but the words caught somewhere in my throat. Instead, I nodded toward the boxes. Want me to help you open one? Distract ourselves. She hesitated, then knelt beside the nearest one. I joined her on the floor. We worked side by side, close enough that I could feel the warmth of her arm brush against mine every few seconds. Inside were old photo frames, brushes, half-used tubes of paint. She picked one up, turned it over in her hands. I used to paint faces, she murmured. Mostly people I knew. Sometimes I'd paint them the way I wished they were. Did it help? She smiled faintly. Not enough. I didn't realize how close we'd gotten until she looked up. Her hair had fallen forward again, brushing my sleeve. For a heartbeat, neither of us moved. Then, footsteps in the hallway. Both of us froze. Someone was outside the door, keys jingling. A neighbor's voice, muffled. Elena's eyes widened. She pressed a finger to her lips, almost instinctively. We stayed still, barely breathing, listening. The footsteps stopped, then faded away. When it was quiet again, she exhaled. Shaky this time. Her hand was still on my arm. I'm sorry, she whispered. I shouldn't. Don't, I said softly. Don't apologize. Her eyes met mine, searching for something I couldn't name. The distance between us vanished until there was nothing left but shared breath, a pulse that wasn't sure whose it was. For a second, one suspended, impossible second, I thought she might close the gap. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Then she drew back, fast, as if the air had burned her. "This is wrong," she said. "You know that." I nodded but didn't move away. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Ido." And yet, neither of us reached for the door. Evening had slipped in without either of us noticing. The room was dim now, lit only by the thin amber glow from the window. It made everything softer and harder to ignore. Elena stood by the counter, her hands wrapped around an empty mug. She hadn't spoken in minutes. I could feel something rising in her, something she was trying to keep pressed down. "I shouldn't have let you stay this long," she said finally. "You didn't," I answered. "The door did." That earned a quiet laugh, but her eyes didn't match it. "You don't understand," she said. "People talk. They always have. I don't care what they say. You should." Her voice cracked on the last word. "You're young, you don't know how small this place can be. How cruel." I stepped closer before I could think better of it. "I know what I'm doing." She looked up at me. A sharp, searching look, like she was trying to find the line between truth and impulse. "You think this is simple?" she whispered. "No," I said. "That's why I'm still here." Something in her face faltered. She set the mug down carefully, as if afraid it might shatter. When she turned back, her hand brushed mine. Light, but deliberate this time. "Don't make this harder," she said. I shook my head. "I'm not the one fighting it." That stopped her. For a heartbeat, the air went still. Her breath came a little faster, her shoulders tight. Then she moved, not away, but closer. Close enough that I could see the faint line at the corner of her mouth, the tremor in her jaw. "You don't know what you're asking for," she said. "Then tell me." Her hand lifted before she could stop it, fingers brushing the side of my face, tracing just above my cheekbone. I didn't breathe. She caught herself halfway through the motion and started to pull back, but I caught her wrist gently. "Elena?" The sound of her name changed something in the air, like the whole room leaned in to listen. "I've spent years," she said quietly, "learning not to need anyone." "Then don't need me," I said. "Just don't pretend you don't want to." Her eyes widened, not in shock, but in surrender. She exhaled, the breath warm against my chin. Every thought, every reason seemed to vanish. Then a sharp buzz. Her phone, vibrating on the counter. Neither of us moved. The sound filled the room, relentless, until finally she turned away, pressing a hand to her forehead. "I have to," she started, but didn't finish. Her phone kept buzzing, screen lighting up with a name I couldn't see. When she looked back at me, her eyes were glassy, her voice barely a whisper. "If I answer that, this ends here." I took a slow step toward her. "And if you don't?" She didn't answer. The phone went silent. Between us, just breath, trembling, and the heartbeat that refused to decide. The silence after her phone stopped buzzing was worse than the sound itself. Elena didn't turn it over. She just stared at the counter, her shoulders rising and falling in tight, uneven breaths. When she finally spoke, her voice came out low. "That was my ex-husband." I waited, unsure whether to step closer or give her space. "He still has the key," she added. "He said he was dropping off the last of my things this evening." I forgot. The air in my chest tightened. "He's coming here?" She nodded. "Probably. He doesn't knock." The words hit harder than I expected. Something hot flickered under my ribs. Not anger exactly, just something territorial, something I didn't want to name. "You should go," she said quickly. "Before he... I'm not leaving you alone with him." Her eyes snapped up. "You don't get to protect me," she said sharply, then softened. "You don't understand what that kind of history does. It lingers." I didn't answer. I could see her hands trembling slightly as she reached for the kettle again, pretending to busy herself to breathe normally. I crossed the small space between us. "Elena," She froze when I said her name. The sound of it seemed to hold her still. I heard the way you talked to him on the phone last week, I said quietly. You said you were fine. You didn't sound fine. Her head turned slowly. You listened. I was in the hallway, I admitted. You left your door open. Her breath caught, the kind that isn't quite anger, isn't quite surprise. You shouldn't have. I know. But I did. The words hung there, heavy and real. She stepped back, bumping against the counter. Her hand brushed a glass. It tipped but didn't fall. Her voice shook. That's not fair. You don't know what you heard. I heard enough. She pressed her palms flat against the counter, grounding herself. You think I'm some broken project you can fix? No, I said. I think you're the first person who ever made me stop pretending I don't feel anything. Something cracked in her expression. Fear, maybe, or recognition. She blinked hard, and a small, humorless laugh slipped out. You don't even know me. I know you're lying to yourself. The words hit her like a touch. She turned away, but not before I saw her jaw tighten. The room felt too small now, full of everything unsaid. Outside, a car door slammed. She flinched. Elena! She shook her head, voice barely a whisper. If he sees you here. Her sentence broke off as she turned toward the window, the orange streetlight painting her face in half shadow. She looked back at me, eyes glassy but steady. Go, she said again. Please. I hesitated. And then, without thinking, she reached out, caught my hand. Just once. Tight. Wait for me, she said. Don't knock. Just wait. Then she let go, her fingers sliding away like something she didn't want to release. The door latch clicked behind me. The sound felt final, but her touch still burned against my skin. The hallway was dim, the only light coming from under her door. I waited there like she'd asked, hands in my pockets, pulse doing things I couldn't slow down. The building was quiet except for the hum of the elevator far below. When her door finally opened, it wasn't sudden. It was careful, slow, like she wasn't sure who she'd find on the other side. Elena, I said. She looked different. Hair down now, eyes tired, but clearer somehow. He left, she whispered. Took the last box. Didn't even look at me. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't. She stepped back to let me in. The apartment felt emptied out. Half the boxes gone, the rest pushed aside. A glass of wine sat untouched on the table. She moved toward it, picked it up, and then didn't drink. I thought he'd never stop coming back, she said quietly. But he did. And now I don't know what to do with that. You start over, I said. Her mouth twitched. You make it sound easy. It's not, I said. But it's something. She took a step closer. The light caught on her cheek, the faint sheen of tears she hadn't let fall. You shouldn't have waited, she murmured. You should have walked away. I tried. She gave a breath that was almost a laugh. Didn't work, did it? I shook my head. We were standing close enough now that I could feel the warmth radiating from her. Not heat exactly, but something deeper, quieter. Her hand brushed against my sleeve, fingers tracing the line of my arm like she was testing what was real. This isn't right, she whispered. I know. Her eyes lifted to mine. But it feels like we'll regret it if we don't, I said. Her breath caught. She looked away, then back, and something in her finally stopped fighting. She reached up, her palm resting against the side of my neck, a touch so light it felt imagined. Tell me this isn't a mistake, she said. I swallowed hard. If it is, it's ours. For a long, suspended moment, neither of us moved. The air thickened between us, her pulse visible at her throat, my hands hovering near her waist but not daring to close the space. Then she leaned forward, barely. Our foreheads touched. Just that. No rush, no need for more. Her voice came out shaky. You make me feel like I'm 20 again. And that scares me. I smiled against her breath. You make me feel like I finally mean something. And that scares me too. She closed her eyes. The silence between us stopped feeling dangerous, it just felt real. When she finally stepped back, it wasn't rejection. It was understanding. The kind that hurts and heals in the same breath. We can't undo this, she said softly. I don't want to, I said. Her lips curved, half sad, half relieved. Then maybe we don't. And for once, there was no tension left. Just the quiet truth of two people who had finally stopped pretending. Morning light softened everything. Her walls, her voice, even the air between us. The night had left its mark in quiet ways. The wine still on the table, our shoes by the door, a stillness that didn't feel awkward anymore. Elena stood by the window again, arms crossed loosely, watching the street below. A delivery truck rattled past. Someone's dog barked. Ordinary sounds. But the world felt different now, smaller, clearer. I didn't sleep much, she said. Me neither, I admitted. She turned, a faint smile tugging at her mouth. I kept wondering what happens now. I shrugged. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. Her laugh was low, tired, honest. You sound too young to mean that. Maybe I'm just not old enough to lie about it, I said. That made her look at me. Not the quick, guarded kind of glance she used to give, but the kind that stays. Her eyes softened. You have no idea how long it's been since someone looked at me like that. I hesitated, then crossed to her. Like what? Like I'm still here. She said it so quietly I almost missed it. I reached out, brushed a stray strand of hair from her face. She didn't pull away. The touch lingered, not for desire, but for understanding. Her hand found mine, fingers threading through like it was something she'd done 100 times. Not once. For a while, neither of us spoke. We just stood there, breathing in the slow rhythm of morning. I was afraid, she said finally. Not of you, of what it would mean if I let you matter. You don't have to decide today, I said. I already did, she whispered. When I opened the door last night. A long silence. Then she leaned forward, her forehead resting lightly against mine. No rush, no uncertainty. Just two people trying to meet somewhere between years, fears, and what-ifs. Outside, the light shifted. A bird landed on the railing. Time started moving again, but slower, kinder. When she finally stepped back, she didn't let go of my hand. You know people will talk, she said. Let them, I answered. They weren't there. She smiled. Not the practiced one I'd seen before, but a real one. You really are stubborn. Only when it matters. Her thumb brushed the inside of my wrist, tracing slow circles. Then I hope you keep showing up, she said. I nodded. I will. We sat together on the couch, shoulders touching, the quiet wrapping around us like something earned. She rested her head against my shoulder, exhaling the last of whatever fear she'd been carrying. For once, nothing needed to be said. The moment didn't feel like an ending. It felt like the first time the world had finally stopped holding its breath. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?